Welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast. Today we have my good friend Daniel Franco of Burnt Timber Outfitters out of Heber, Arizona, based right in the heart of 3C. Daniel, how you doing?
Great. How you doing, Jay?
Good. I kind of had to take a breath mid-sentence there. I was running out of air.
Yeah, that's surprising. You're always full of hot air, so I'm surprised.
That's what my wife would totally agree with you on that. All right, buddy, here we are. We're at the beginning of January. It's actually December 31st. The Arizona Elk and Antelope regulations have just come out, and I believe we've got a deadline of February 12th, something like that. It's the second Tuesday in February coming up, and I want to go over the units that you guys like to hunt. They're, obviously with your bread and butter being right there in the backyard where you're born and raised in Unit 3C.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, before we get into that, let's do a little recap on where are we at as far as moisture in the fall, moisture throughout the hunting seasons. What have you been getting recently? Above average, below average, right at average. What do we know right now?
I would say, coming into this year, it was one of the driest that we've seen. Horrible dry summer. And of course, we saw the effects of that this year, this last fall, in the antlers. We did start to get some really good moisture this fall during September, October. It did dry out there for a little bit, kind of between October and November. And then since then, we've actually had a couple of different snowstorms. Nothing huge yet, nothing that we would like to see, but definitely putting some moisture into the ground. It's actually snowing right now as we speak, really good. They're calling for about 6 inches of snow, so hopefully we get that. That will definitely help. So I would say right now we're kind of on tap for about average. I think our earlier fall moisture was a little bit above average. We had quite a few good rainstorms there. We had a pretty good snow in October. Right there at the start of the late Elk Hunt, 1st of December, we had another snow and a couple other small ones. So I would say probably right on tap for about average.
Okay, sounds good. For those people out there listening that haven't heard you on the podcast before or don't follow you on Instagram, why don't you give me a 30,000-foot kind of elevation view of a little background on yourself and a little bit, about Burnt Timber Outfitters, and then we'll kind of dive into the specific units.
Not a whole lot to say, really.
I'll agree with that.
Just a local Heber boy, born and raised. Grew up in the sticks and still live in the sticks, and love every minute of it. Wouldn't trade it for the world. Been hunting Unit 3C and 4B since I was, probably 13 or 14. Been pretty successful. Kind of cut my teeth on mule deer because we really didn't have a whole lot of elk back then, but that quickly changed to elk, and kind of back and forth as the populations either increased or decreased. Here about 2008, I think, 8, 9, somewhere in there. Myself and my partner Mike Hancock started up Burnt Timber Outfitter. Prior to that, we were actually guiding for this tall, skinny guy out of Scottsdale. I think his name was J. Scott or something like that. Can't remember off the top of my head, but started
I got
guiding
tired of getting letters that were saying, "Look what the cat drug in." No, I tease Daniel because he's one of my best friends. Guys, you're listening to someone that absolutely knows what he's talking about. That's why we have him on the podcast. But he's also a good friend, and he does phenomenally well. Him and all of the guys that he works with. Daniel I call him Big Buck. If you actually look on my phone, it says Daniel Big Buck Franco, among other things. But
was that buck or butt?
Well, it's probably both. It just depends on the day that you catch me. But Daniel is a great hunter. Daniel shot a giant buck down in Mexico, and he shot some big mule deer, shot a great buck on the strip. One of the cool things about Daniel's buck on the strip is pretty neat hunt with our other friend Breck Bundy up there. The buck that Daniel actually shot, when he shot the buck, it was actually rolling and caught, I believe, trail cam video of the buck, of Daniel's buck getting shot, which is so unique. He was up on a point, and the buck just happened to circle back to a trick tank that he'd hit a couple weeks before, and Daniel was glassing and ended up, it's a really cool sequence. But Daniel and I have been running around with Mikey and Dar and his whole crew for a long time, doing a lot of turkey hunting and chasing elk. And I've been fortunate when I didn't have a hunter or what have you to go up and do some filming and videoing for Daniel and Mike, and so we go way back. Sorry to cut you off, but yeah, Daniel's born and raised, and when Daniel speaks, it's wise if you listen. So the general consensus is last year and across the board, it was kind of it was a crappy year, correct? I mean, elk, just, let's not beat around the bush. It was rough.
It was horrible. It was horrible. I'll be honest. In the 30-something years I've been chasing elk, it was the worst year I've seen for droughted antlers, especially in 4B. Some of those units that kind of don't have that reprieve from the higher country, the reservation or whatnot. That a lot of that lower country was just, absolutely hammered by the drought, and it definitely showed in antler growth. So, pretty tough year, pretty pathetic year. Bad year to draw a tag, good year to turn a tag back. Just tough in general.
So, if you're sitting on points right now, you're a resident or you're non-resident, you're trying to figure out what you're doing, and let's say that 3C, 4B, Unit 1, Unit 23, those are all units you like. Let's say that, those are on your radar and you're kind of looking, coming off of a rough year like what we've had, what is your mindset, or what do people need to be thinking about going into this year? What are the positives? What are the negatives? Like, what are you thinking? Are you thinking that potentially holdover bulls, because a bunch of bulls, better bulls probably didn't get harvested? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's, coming off of last year, I know a lot of guys that didn't fill their tags just because they didn't see the quality of bull that they wanted to kill. So I think there's going to be a lot of carryover bulls from last year that, were, say 320 type bulls last year, that just didn't have the nutrition, didn't have the antler growth. So this year, those bulls are going to be what they potentially should have been last year, plus another year of age on them, another, some better moisture, some better feed. The crazy thing is we've got tons of feed. And there's a lot of feed in Unit 1 and 3C and 3B and 4B. It's just not holding the nutrients. It doesn't have that nutrition that they need to really boost that antler growth. So, with this moisture that we're getting, hopefully if the stars align, the feed does start to hold some nutrition, and that, in turn transfers into antler growth. Then I can see next year actually being a pretty good year. So, or this coming year. So, that's kind of what my anticipation is going into it. That's what I foresee, and that's kind of what I'm expecting going into this year. Is that with the moisture and the antler growth, I think it should be a good year.
Daniel, when you're talking to hunters, what is your strategy as far as when you're talking to hunters? Do you have them put in and just basically, when you talk to someone, say from out of state, and you say, okay, yeah, put in for this or that, or are you still kind of reluctant and say, listen, let's talk now, but then let's double back, maybe a week before the draw, maybe, first week in February, and let's just, see if you know, big rains, big snows have come. Let's see if maybe no snows have come. I mean, how do you handle talking with hunters? And if you hear what's going on outside right now, I don't know if you can hear, but it's raining so hard that I can't even believe I can even hold a conversation. It's raining so hard out right now. But how do you handle that? I mean, normally on great years, you just say, yeah, you know, January 4th, you talk to a hunter, say, put in, that's what I want you to do. Is there part of you that's like kind of hold back and let's just double check like the first week in February and then let's decide from there?
Yeah, I do. I like to. I've already talked to quite a few guys this year. We actually had quite a few archery clients last year that turned their tags back in. And I've kind of told, you know, everybody the same thing is, hey, let's, you know, it's looking good so far, but I'm not going to tell you to go ahead and apply yet until we absolutely have to. So yeah, a lot of guys I've already told, well, let's talk mid to end of January, first part of February. Let's see exactly what kind of moisture we get and where we're at, and to see if we're on track, if we're below average, if we're above average. You know, the good thing about the whole point guard system is it does allow you to turn, you know, a tag back on a bad year. However, once you've done that, the very next year, if you decide to apply, you have to use that tag. There's no turning it back. So, you know, that plays a part into it. So, yeah, I personally, I like to hold out until the very end. I mean, I personally do not apply for my tags or you know, clients and stuff. I'll tell them, you know, let's wait until, you know, 2-3 days before the deadline to get applied. That way we know where we're at, kind of what we've gotten, and then that gives us a little better expectation on what we can expect. So
good stuff. Okay, let's dive into the regs, and looks like we've got an archery season the 13th through the 26th, I believe. And I don't know if you know, but we also have a full moon on the 14th. Just talking in general between the archery hunts you like, with that full moon basically being on opening weekend, what are you already thinking in your mind as far as, you know, first 3, 4, 5 days of the archery season, or do you think that it matters at all?
I do. We always see some slow days, specifically slow mornings when we're faced with a full moon during the rut of the elk hunt. You know, the 14th is typically for us around here in you know, 3C and Unit 1. They're just kind of really starting to get going. I think I've said this before on here too. I think the earliest I've ever seen a cow get bred was September 13th, with the vast majority of them being there between like the 18th to 22nd. So with that full moon being on the 14th, it's going to affect it. But I would much rather have that full moon at the beginning of the season than I would right in the middle of the season, where you've got, you know, building up of a full moon the whole first week, full through the middle, and then the tailing off of the full towards the end, where you're constantly fighting it. At least this way, you deal with it kind of at the beginning of the hunt when it's still kind of ramping up, and you're starting to get rid of it sooner in the hunt, not having to deal with it quite as much. So,
yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Go ahead.
Well, so, you know, that way you're not fighting it the entire season. So I can deal with the 14th. It's still a little early, you know, with since we're talking about the regs and the archery hunt. This year they did do their, I don't even know what you want to call it, their game and fish their game and fish thing. They've rotated the.
Do you need to be beeped?
Well, I just heard a beep. I'm not sure if that was.
Do we need some censor? Do we need some beeping censorship here?
No, I'm thinking about it.
You're talking about this firearms hunt that's going to go in front of the archery hunt, right?
Yes, and they've done it in previous units. They started it in 9. They've rotated it around to 27, and now this year we get the privilege of dealing with it here in 3A, 3C, where the early rifle hunt is going to start on September 13th and go through the 19th. And then the 2-week archery hunt will start on the 20th and run through, I believe it's October 3rd. So, I'll be honest, I don't get it. I don't necessarily, I just don't agree with it. But it is what it is. We'll deal with it and we'll move on, and it is what it is. So,
is it muzzleloader or early rifle?
It is early rifle.
Okay.
The muzzleloader for Region 1 rotated to 27 this year. So both Unit 1 and 3A, 3C will be early rifle this year.
Okay, so starting on the, what is it, the 13th?
13th, yep.
The early rifle hunt, and there's 40 tags. Normally,
25.
Excuse me, 25. Normally,
Yep, 25.
3C early rifle is actually a really good hunt, and I think it sometimes gets left behind, and you guys have been able to shoot some phenomenal bulls.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at it thinking, golly, full moon, 3C, it's not necessarily like the best glassing unit at all. I think there's some people that think, oh, it's going to be a slam dunk hunt. I think for those of you like Daniel that know it really well, I think it could be a very, very good hunt. But I could also see it being a little bit slow.
Yes.
Although with a rifle in the burn, you don't necessarily need them going absolutely bananas. You just need them going enough that you can get on them. Where with an archery hunt, it can feel like it's really slow because they're not necessarily really coming to calls as much per se, and maybe they're just not bugling as much. But there is some visibility in 3C. So I mean, what do you think? Do you think? Honestly, do you think you can kill as good a bull with an early rifle client this year as you can on a normal year?
I'll be honest with you. I think it's going to be a little. I agree with you. I think it's going to be a little bit slow, just because, like I said, the rut's just going to be starting to kind of ramp up. They're going to be talking, but they're really not going to be rutting and doing what they typically are later in the month of September. So I think it could start out a little slow. And the flip side to that is, and we see it year after year, where people draw these early rifle bull tags. So there's 25 tags in 3C, and the first day there might be a bull or two killed. And then after that, people start to almost panic and think, oh, shoot, I'm running out of days, and now they just start shooting bulls. And they're shooting, solid bulls, 330, 340, 320, whatever the case might be. But they just start shooting bulls because they almost feel like they're running out of time. So, with that said, I think it could be a little bit of a slow start to that early rifle hunt. One of our biggest successes in that early rifle hunt is a lot of times during the archery hunt, while we're either scouting or during that archery hunt, we will find bulls that typically we go back in and can't get killed on the archery hunt, and we'll go in and target them on that early rifle hunt and get them killed. So it's going to definitely be a little bit of a challenge to start out with. Typically our bulls don't start showing up until the first part of September, and don't start talking until that first week. So there's going to be about a good solid week of scouting before the start of that early rifle hunt. And then, that's only going to be a week-long hunt. It should get better as time goes by. We are going to be fighting that full moon, so that is going to make it tough. But then, typically, I would say towards the end of that hunt is going to be the better part of that hunt. Unfortunately, a lot of people, like I said, start to panic and don't want to, wait till the last couple of days. They want to try to kill those first couple of days rather than wait towards the last couple of days. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out this year.
Yeah, whereas this year with the rifle hunt, every day that goes by is going to be better, where sometimes on that early rifle hunt, the first handful of days are good, and then it slowly tapers off because the rut kind of peters out.
Correct.
I think you make a great point that if you do draw this tag, like you need to know that the 7th day of the hunt is going to be your best day.
Potentially, yes, absolutely.
That's my opinion. Maybe the 5th, 6th, 7th, like the last 3 days will probably be, from a bugling standpoint, probably be better.
Yeah. Yep.
my question is, like, I remember that 385 bull that you shot yourself personally in 3C with your bow and years ago, maybe 10 years ago. I remember I think you found that bull pretty early. I'm just trying to think of other big bulls. You guys have shot some giants, but my perception is a lot of times those big bulls don't really show up until kind of right towards the end, into that second week of the archery hunt. Are you nervous at all that maybe some of those upper end, 370 plus type bulls, they might not have, come across the res? And is there any worry at all in that regard that half of the big bulls might not even be there?
There is, and it's funny you kind of bring that up, because there's a bull that we've got some history with, that the very first time that we ever saw him was, I think, the last 3 or 4 days of the archery hunt. And he would show up almost just in time for the early rifle hunt. He would come in, it would be a giant rut fest, just crazy madness for a couple of days, and then he would leave. And where he was before that, I have no idea. Where he went after that, I'm assuming, he makes a pretty quick trip back to the reservation. But anyways, this bull, and we've seen him, seems like it's always alternating years. We saw him one year, we didn't see him the next. We saw him the next year. We actually had one of our early rifle clients that missed him at 40 yards one year, and we've kind of had some trouble finding him since then. But he was a bull that typically didn't show up until right towards the end of that archery hunt. So, typically, it's like anything else, mule deer, coos deer, whatever. As the rut's just starting to get going, it's always the little bulls that are making all the noise and running around and chasing the cows. And the big bulls are going, hey, they're not ready yet. I'm gonna wait over here for a little bit longer, and then they know when to come in and run the little bulls off and take the cows and find the one that's in heat, and and off they go. So that's a little bit of a concern, absolutely.
So we've talked about that early rifle hunt, 25 tags. Now let's talk about the archery hunt that now is going to go after the early rifle hunt. My thoughts on it, potentially, you could just have some incredible bugling as long as the early rifle hunters don't jostle them and get them too off their game, which that's still left to be determined. I'm curious what your thoughts from just a bugling standpoint. Seems like those dates of the 19th, let's see, the 20th, what will be the 20th through the 3rd?
20th through the 3rd, yep.
Seems like just from historical, I've hunted 3C a lot, it seems like the bugling should be off the charts as long as they don't get jostled. What do you think?
I agree. I think that first week of the archery hunt, especially with, the full moon being on the 14th, will be a week off of the full moon. We'll be working towards the new moon, which has got to be, right there at the end of September. So the bugling should be phenomenal. My biggest concern about the 3C archery hunt this year is going to be broken points. Like I said, typically it seems like our peak in 3A, 3C, and even Unit 1 might be a few days earlier, but typically about that 18th through the 22nd tends to be our peak. That's when we tend to not see very, very many broken points up to that point. And then after about the 22nd is when we start to really, start seeing broken points, on drought years, broken beams, missing entire horns, depending on how dry it is and what kind of moisture we've had. So I think as far as bugling is concerned, it's going to be great. One of the issues that we've kind of ran into in 3C is this archery hunt always starts right when they're just starting to get bugling and do their thing, and then your 135 archery hunters show up, and it kind of shuts things down just a little bit. And then it takes a little while for them to kind of get back going and doing their thing. So with there only being 25 early rifle hunters starting on the 13th, by the 20th, they're going to be, just absolutely screaming. So that's one thing I'm looking forward to, is not having a ton of pressure and letting them get going, letting them start doing their thing, letting them start rutting and carrying on and acting like elk are supposed to act. And then the archery hunters get to come in on the 20th and start hunting them right in the peak of their rut. So yeah, it should be good.
Okay. Let's talk about, while we're on it, let's talk about the 3C, the late archery hunt, and then let's talk about the late rifle hunt, since we're talking about 3C right now.
Okay, the late archery hunt, they have actually discontinued.
Okay.
So that hunt is gone, which is perfectly fine with me. So because 3C is also, they're managing it for an older age class of mule deer. Because of that, they've kind of altered some of their things around, and what we're actually trying to push with them and to get done is we're trying to have the mule deer hunt actually in front of the general season cow hunt, which used to be 365 tags. Well, now they've actually split that cow hunt, and 150 of them are up front. They'll do that the week before the deer season starts, and then 4 days after the deer season ends, then they'll do an additional like 200 or 225. So we're trying to get them to basically do that general cow hunt after the deer hunt, because what happens is there's so much hunt pressure and so many people in the woods that it really stirs the deer up. And we're losing bucks that we scout all summer long and into the fall because of that general cow hunt. So in order to do that and bump those cow hunts back, they've had to do away with that archery late bull hunt. So that's why that hunt's gone. As far as the late elk hunt is concerned, they still have that. They've been increasing tags slowly but surely, as they like to do. And so now this year it's the same as last year. There's 300 tags in the 3A 3C late elk hunt. That hunt, it's a lot. It's a lot of people, a lot of pressure. The one good thing about 3C, I guess it's good and bad depending on how you look at it, is it does border the Fort Apache Indian Reservation on the entire southern border, and a lot of those mature bulls, once the rut's over and the breeding is done, they head south across that fence onto the reservation, and that's where they spend their winter, their spring, their summer, and then we don't see them again until September 1st, when they start to go back up to start to rut. So it's a good thing, because that's what helps keep our quality up in 3A 3C as far as our early hunts are concerned. The bad thing is on the late hunts, a lot of those mature bulls that we're chasing in September aren't within 15 miles of the unit by the time the late elk hunt rolls around. So that makes it tough. The quality definitely drops down. The number of elk drops substantially. So it's a tough hunt. It's a hunt that we've been fortunate on. We've done pretty good. Even last year with major drought conditions, we still managed to kill 2 pretty solid bulls. So that was a plus for us. We were pretty worried going into that hunt just because of everything that we had seen in September and October from drought. But we still managed to put a couple of mature bulls on the ground. So. Okay,
let's talk about points. Go Hunt Insider hasn't updated their points yet for this year, and I'm anxious for them to do that. Let's talk about points that you think it will take to draw for a non-resident for an archery tag, and as well as a resident, and then talk about points for that late elk hunt.
Okay, so for the archery hunt, as a resident, the max pull has been hovering right there in the upper end of 11. Seems like every year there's people with 11 points that do get tags in the max pull, but not all of them. So 12 is going to be your guaranteed draw for a resident for the 3C archery. For non-resident, that number jumps clear up to 18. We actually had quite a few guys last year that applied with 17, and of the 5 that applied, 3 of them drew, and all 3 of them ended up turning their tags back. So that's going to bump that number now up to 18. Should be 18 this year if everything.
So in other words, if those same people apply, you know, if someone's sitting on like 17, they got to realize that there's at least 3 people that are with 18 now that are going to probably apply for the same hunt.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and you know, it changes every year. That's, you know, the way that Arizona's done it now for the non-residents with cutting their 10% in half to the max pool. You know, only 50% of those tags going in the max pool. That fluctuates every year and changes every year. And now throwing in the wild card of the point guard and being able to turn your tag back in, I mean, that's just a wild card that you know, truthfully just can change it, you know, year after year after year. So that's kind of the wild card that kind of changes that. So it's really hard. I mean, prior to the point guard, I mean, we could tell you every year, okay, how many points you got? You got 18. Okay, you're guaranteed draw. You got 15. You're guaranteed draw. Now with that point guard, you just, you know, unless you know how many people are turning their tags back in for that hunt, it's hard to know, you know, if that number is going to stay the same, if it's going to bump up. So.
Okay, what about the early rifle numbers?
So the early rifle is up to about 24. So it's a 24 or 25. Last year I went to a guy with 24 points. So because there's only 25 tags, they're only giving one of those tags in the max pool, and that went to a non-resident with 24. So as a resident, you've still got to be up there about 19 to 20 to draw that in the max pool as a resident for the early rifle. So definitely it keeps going up every year. Seems like every year it just slowly starts bumping up a point here, point there. So continues to climb as the points climb.
All right, the late hunt.
The late hunt is, for a resident, a lot easier to draw. It's taken about 4 points to be a guaranteed draw for the 3C late. For a non-resident, it's about 8.
So if you want to be part of the 300, if you want to be with 299 of your friends out there and their friends, that's the hunt for you.
That's the hunt, yep. If you want to endure cold winds and probably snow and be lucky to find a non-broken 6-point, then yep, that's the hunt for you.
All right, let's talk about some of the other units that you like to hunt, and I'll just let you kind of dive into them.
Well, I mean, obviously, you know, 3C is the one that, you know, I live in. Mike lives in 3C as well, so it's the unit that we've spent the most time in. The other unit that we love and that we guide in is Unit 1. We've been in there, you know, I don't know, about every year for, I think, as long as we've been guiding. So Unit 1's a great unit. You know, tons of elk, tons of country. Terrain-wise, it's a little rougher terrain than 3A, 3C is. Definitely has some higher elevations and some steeper country. It's got more wilderness in it than 3A, 3C does, which sometimes does allow you to get away from other hunters. The biggest obstacle that we find with Unit 1, especially on the archery hunt, is the number of tags that they give out. They give out 300 archery bull tags with an additional, I believe it's 75 archery cow. So there's about 375 hunters at the same time, you know, chasing elk, blowing cow calls, you know, just trying to kill something. So that makes it tough. It's a great unit. There's some great bulls. There's some giant bulls in that unit. I've said this before. I think Unit 1 could be the best unit in the state as far as the archery hunt is concerned, if they would cut the tags back, but that's probably never going to happen. But great unit. We love it. Hunt it a lot. It's actually the Unit 1 late bull hunt is actually the better late hunt. As far as I'm concerned, Unit 1 and 27 are probably the 2 best late hunts in the state. like I said, they've got a lot of elk. They've got a lot of elk that winter in the unit that don't go back to the reservation or don't have a sanctuary that they go back to that can't be hunted. So because of that, you can find some of these bigger bulls that tend to inhabit the unit during September, during the rut and whatnot. So it does require some more points as you would expect. I think on the archery hunt it runs about the same. I want to say 11 to 12 as a resident is a guaranteed draw for the Unit 1 archery. Non-resident, it's 16 to 17. And then on the late hunt, it bumps up a little bit. It's about 6 as a resident and about 10 as a non-resident. So definitely takes a step up because it is a little better late hunt and more sought after. So the other units that we hunt 3B, which is kind of located in between 3A, 3C, and Unit 1. We actually had a couple of clients in there last year on the archery hunt, and then again on the muzzleloader hunt, and had some really good success in there. Killed a 350 bull with a 24-inch drop tine in there on the archery hunt, and then killed another bull that was right at 350 on the muzzleloader hunt. So had some good success in there. The other unit is 4B, which is one of those units that tends to kind of fly under the radar, as well as 3B. We hunted that as well last year. Like I said, earlier, just it was drought stricken. Antlers were pathetic. Everything was droughted on the back end. It was tough. It was tough to find anything with any size on it. So made it a difficult hunt. They didn't rut very good. I think due in large part to the drought, to the feed. So that made it a little bit of a tough hunt, but we did manage to see some bulls. Finally found a pretty good pocket of bulls and hunted them, but were unfortunately unable to connect in that unit. But we did end up killing some bulls out of there a little later in October. So, and that's about it. Sometimes we'll run down into 23 as well. It's almost one of those units that we don't even talk about, though, because it's almost impossible for residents and non-residents alike to draw. So just so few tags and so sought after that it's not, unfortunately, we don't get to spend as many years in there in a row as we do these other units. So, but a great unit as well.
Yeah, Daniel, I want to talk about antelope next, but before we do that, I want to shout out to our sponsors. I want to thank GoHunt.com. Cody Nelson, the glassing guru, he's the optics authority. He is the optics manager at GoHunt.com Gear Shop. It's a full line of optics, tripods, accessories that they sell there. You can call him at 702-847-8747, that's extension 2, or email him at optics@gohunt.com. I want to thank them for their sponsorship. I also want to remind you that the Go Hunt Insider, they haven't released their draw odds for Arizona yet, but they're going to any day now. And if you go to gohunt.com/JScott, you automatically get a $50 gift certificate if you sign up for an insider membership. And Daniel was going over the numbers. If you're looking at all of the western states, they break down every state and give the most accurate draw odds. So go check them out. I also want to thank KUIU Ultralight Hunting. That's KUIU.com. That's the gear that I wear, whether it be my backpack, whether it be my sleeping bag, my tent, all of the different gear from head to toe that I wear. I want to thank KUIU.com for their sponsorship. CanyonCoolers.com. If you use the JScott promo code, you're going to get a 10% discount on all Canyon coolers. Now, that's based right out of Flagstaff, Arizona. And then Phonescope.com. Use the JScott18 promo code to get a 10% discount on all orders. And then OnXMaps.com. Use the JScott18 promo code to get a 20% discount off all orders. Daniel, let's bump into antelope unless you have anything to add on the elk, and go over a couple of the antelope units that you like.
The antelope units are pretty much the same as the elk units that we hunt, except the only other units that we spend a lot of time in that we don't actually elk hunt in is Unit 4A. All the other units are pretty much the same, so 3A, 3C, which are actually broken separate for the antelope, whereas on the elk hunt they combine them. So units 3A, 3C, 4B, 4A, and then we have spent quite a bit of time in Unit 5A and 5B as well. Those are pretty much the units that we like to hunt. We have hunted Unit 1 as well. It's got a lot of antelope. It's just really hard to find a trophy in that unit. So those are the ones that we spend the most time in. One of the exciting things this year that they did do is on the rifle antelope hunt, 4A, in my opinion, they have been absolutely pillaging it with the tag numbers. It went from 21 to 27 last year, and now this year they bumped it down to 15, which is huge. I don't know that we'll see a direct effect of that this year. I do like the fact that it's only 15 tags in that unit, but I think it might take a year or two. I know the quality has slipped in that unit because of the amount of rifle tags that they've been offering in there. So, but I am happy to see that they're moving in the right direction there. So that's positive. As far as the antelope, they're a fun animal to hunt. They're almost as hard to draw as sheep. I'm pretty sure there's a few desert sheep units that are actually easier to draw than trying to draw a rifle antelope tag. But there's a couple of units that we really like and spend a lot of time in is 3A and 4B. Those are the ones that we've kind of spent the most time in for antelope. I had a client in 4B last year, and we had a great hunt. We missed a really good buck, unfortunately, but he managed to take a good go as well. And then Mike had the opportunity to hunt with his brother-in-law in 3C last year, and it's kind of ironic. He told his brother-in-law to put in for 3A, and his brother-in-law kind of, I guess being kind of elk-minded, thought, 3A, 3C, we linked those together so much because of the elk hunts. He applied for 3C and drew a 3C tag instead of a 3A tag. And 3A is typically not known for the quality or not as good as 3A is. So they spent quite a bit of time.
Daniel, just a second. I think you said 3A. You meant 3C is not known for the quality that 3A is.
Yes,
3C
sorry.
Is not.
Yeah. 3C is not known for the quality as good as 3A is as far as antelope is concerned. So, anyways, they put in their time. They scouted it hard. Spent quite a few summer nights out looking at goats, and had pretty much looked over the entire unit and decided, okay, this is our number one goat. And about 2 weeks before the start of the hunt, they found a goat that just blew their minds. I can remember Mike sending me some pictures going, hey, what do you think? And I said, I think you better get him killed at first light on Friday morning before somebody else does. And he's like, yeah, he's pretty good. And I said, dude, he's a giant. You need to go kill that goat. So they went in there Friday morning, couldn't find him, hunted around that day, finally picked him up about 3 o'clock and got in and were able to get him killed. And he hasn't been officially scored yet, but he was scored by a panel, I guess you could say, between Mike and our taxidermist and another guy. But they have him green scored right at 88 4/8. So,
wow,
not typical for that unit.
That's a heck of a buck, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's a great buck. He's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So yeah, that's like I said, not common for that unit, but even a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then, and we'll take it. So we're happy for Pat. He was able to shoot it, and he had actually just lost his dad earlier this year, so it was kind of a bittersweet thing to be able to help him out there and let him achieve that goal. He had 24 points or 25 points going into it, so it was nice to see, even on a little slip up, maybe not getting the unit that we had wanted him to apply for. He still came out with a giant. So
awesome. Well, buddy, it's always great talking to you. I'll give you a last second here to if we forgot anything or any last minute concluding thoughts you have. But I'm glad it's snowing up there. I'm glad you've gotten a few storms. It's a lot better conversation than I think we were having last year around this time, and let's hope that it keeps going throughout the next month. And with having to apply in February, we really don't have any way to figure all the facts out with the moisture and what have you, but at least it's not looking horrible. If anything,
right.
It's average, and averaging 3C and averaging those units 1 and such that you like are usually pretty good. So,
right, yeah,
again, I'll give you the floor. I'll give you the floor to have any last-minute thoughts, and then also make sure people know how they can reach out to you.
Okay. Yeah, like you said, we'll take average any day. These units up here along the Mogollon Rim and unit 1 and 23, we tend to kind of are able to stay out of drought effect, especially in our antlers, just because of the reservation and live water and whatnot. So even given an average year of moisture, we tend to pull through it. So yeah, we'll definitely even just take average at this point. But the unfortunate part is you put in February and you have no idea what's going to happen, through March, April, May, June, July, which are the months that that matter most, especially for elk. So, we'll take every bit we can get. It's always a pleasure talking with you. We can be reached on our website, burnttimberoutfitters.com. I need to get on there and get it updated, and we've got a couple of years of pictures we haven't got on there, but need to get that up and going. You can also follow us on Instagram at Burnt Timber Outfitters. Also, myself and Mike also have kind of personal Instagram accounts, but we also post a lot of our hunting and guiding stuff on it. Mine is Franco_BTO, and Mike Hancock's is Mikey with 2 E's, MIKEE _BTO. You can follow us on there. You can direct message us. Our emails and cell phone numbers are on our website. You can contact us that way. Feel free to give us a call if you got questions, you want to talk elk. We're all about talking elk hunting or antelope or mule deer or whatever. So feel free to give us a call. We'd love to talk to you. Like I said, we've been talking to quite a few guys already this year, so it's looking like it's going to be another good year in 2019.
Yeah, buddy. Sounds great. Always love chatting with you, and look forward to, I'll bet you're missing Mexico this year. You're not going to make it down. I bet you're starting to drool. Are you starting to drool on yourself?
Oh, I'm having withdrawals, Jay. I'm not going to lie. Yep, I've already been talking to the gang, and looks like we're going to shoot for next year. So, yep, we're going to rally the troops.
It's awfully hard to be yourself when you go down and shoot 141-inch deer. Like, where do you even start? You just go like, I'm going to start shooting archery. I'm going to go left-handed. I'm going to shoot single action revolver. Like, where do you even go?
Pea shooters? No, I will be honest with you. As far as I'm concerned, next January I will still shoot the first 110-inch buck I see. If I see 110 plus, he's going down, whether it's the first day, whether it's the first minute. I'm not that dumb. I'm not that dumb. Yeah.
You're dumb, but not
animals.
that dumb?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Love hunting them. Love shooting them. Love spending time down there with the guys. We kind of rally our burnt timber boys, all those guys that guide with us and hunt with us and help us, and that's kind of our time to relax and do our own thing and finally get a chance to pull the trigger after a year of hunting and guiding and whatnot. So it's a good time.
Right on, buddy. Well, God bless. It's always great. Tell all the girls hello up there, all your girls.
Will do.
Daniel, for those of you that don't know, he's just surrounded by girls up there. He's got all girls, and so every once in a while, Daddy just needs a little bit of alone time.
And I tell everybody this from the beginning. That's why I hunt so much. When you live in an ocean of estrogen, you just got to get out every now and then.
Right on, buddy. Take care. I'll talk to you when I get back from Mexico, okay?
Perfect. Have a good one, Jay.
All right, bye.
All right, bye.